Delta 14 Mike Zulu. We've got at that time for 27 Alpha Mike Delta Charlie. Okay, thank you very much and good luck. Great introduction.
Okay, Whiskey 5, Hotel Victor Lima. 2 Delta, what section? November Echo Bravo. Kilo Echo 5? Okay, Kilo Delta 0. Thank you very much. Again? Mexico 780. Whiskey 3, Sugar.
Okay.
We're doing all right now. We got off to a rocky start.
Okay, can you work us on CW or any other band?
So Sarah, did you see how to do teamwork? You just put the first one down.
Yeah, you type in there.
You got to hit transmit.
All right, we got a couple of really expert operators here. We got Maurice Cahill, who's K3EJJ, and we've got Raul Anders, who's K3RA. And look at his call sign. They must be at his shack because the call sign is behind him there. So he's wearing his name badge, so it's pretty easy. Yeah, there you go. Well, yeah, there it is right there, Raul.
Yeah.
All right. Okay, I see there. Yeah, there. Okay, very good, Maurice. All right, very good. Well, listen, one of the things, everybody, we talked about, we want to get ready for field day coming up at the end of June. I've done a lot of field days over the years. I mean, you guys have been in this a long time. A lot of people probably have more years than me. I've got about 28 years in amateur radio, and I'm probably a youngster in comparison to a lot of the guys operating back in the 50s. Probably Lloyd was operating way back then and others, and here in the club. But you guys are probably, not just probably, I think you are the premier field day operating team probably in the world, as far as I know. I don't know nobody that's operating with 27 stations at once. I don't know. That's the record for me, unless you know of another field day operation that had more stations than you. And we did see a little video as well on construction of the antennas, and I've seen those. The club I came from in Minnesota had purchased one of those push-up military mast things out of aluminum. Those things are really cool. And it looks like you got a bunch of those, so you must have got
We have 14 of them.
got a fire sale on those babies. Obviously, you know the right people. But those are amazing little towers to put up, little push-ups. But there's a lot of questions we have about field day, and probably we'll start out with telling us a little bit about your operation there for the club, and kind of how many people. And there's a lot of moving parts. Obviously, you know, you've got the people that are doing the antennas and the wiring, and the people who are setting up the field, as they've talked about before. Where do you find your location? You want to talk about that? I mean, kind of the stations you're running. You're running CW. You're running phone stations. I saw that you run at least one GOTA, if not a couple GOTA stations there, because I saw in the film segment there where they were talking to a young person trying to tell them how to make the exchange. And then probably as you go through the whole thing about how you put it all together, and I know you start, I think back in January, you start work planning in January and come all the way to June. Some of the tricks of the trade, you know, last year I had one of our new operators here that's here tonight too, you know, there are ways of making a lot more contacts if you park on frequency and just start making calls rather than wandering around. So, and you guys probably do that because you have band filters, band pass filters that allow you to stay in one place and not hear anybody else. So, you got a lot of stuff to say, so I'm going to shut up and kind of let you guys drive the bus now.
Well, let me start with the history a little bit. I think, Maurice, you were the first, no, you weren't the very first one.
No, I didn't. I came in
But
later.
you were down Eastern Shore, weren't you, with us?
No, I never made it to Eastern
Okay.
Shore.
So we had to get calibrated here a little bit. We started off about 19 years ago, I think. We entered at the spur of the moment. KE3Q, Rich Boyd, who was the GOTA operator you see in those pictures, coaching, and that's what he does now. He's also one of the premier CW operators in the world. There's no doubt about it. He won sweepstakes for like 15 years in a row or something like that overall. So he said, I had been working with the Columbia Amateur Radio Association field day, and we had been bringing putting together like 3A stations and 4A stations, and we had a number of PVRC, Potomac Valley Radio Club contest guys that were doing the operating, and the Cara guys provided the towers, and they did the VHF stuff. And the Columbia Amateur Radio Association, right? And they got a little bit tired of doing all the work and not doing all the operating. So they said, well, we'll go our own way, and which they did for a couple of years. And then so I had no place to go. So Rich called me and said, would you like to come down and operate from my house? We're going to we're going to the woods behind my house and put some antennas up, and we'll put a generator. I have a generator, and we'll operate from there. So that's 4 of us, or 5 of us, I think, operated from there. And I said, why don't we go, he was going to go 2A or 1A or something. I said, let's do 4A, what the heck? He said, well, okay with me. So we finished 2nd in the country on the spur of the moment. Not on 4A, we finished 2nd in the country overall. We won 4A, finished 2nd in the overall field day. So he said, whoa, that was cool. So the next year he said, my father's got this place on the eastern shore of Maryland. Now, you have to understand, we're south of Baltimore. It's on the western shore of the Chesapeake Bay, and on the eastern shore of the Chesapeake Bay is a lot of farm country. And there's some cliffs over there. We're overlooking the water. So we set up, he got permission from all of the neighbors around this cliff for us to put our towers in their backyards. And we set up like 6 or 7 towers along the ridge, and we entered 7A and we won. And we've won since. We've won every year since. So then we got into this, well, if we could do 7A, what about 50A? And we kept adding, because in those days, every time you added another transmitter, you got another 100-point bonus. So after we got up to 52A, ARRL, so they got they said, well, we didn't get as many points in field days. You got from multipliers or from bonus points for our transmitter. So they said, we're cutting it off at 20. So then our guys got interested in trying to have all of the records between 40A and on down. So we've been working our way down, 49, 39. Now, of course, nobody else has ever competed in any of these categories. Right. But we've also tried to set the record for the highest number of contacts, the highest number of points. And we've got all of those and finished number 1 in the country. So we continue to do that. That's how we got started. And the Columbia guys said they didn't really do much on their own. They said, there's plenty for us to do. We love it. We'll come in. We'll work on some of the modes where you don't need the real fast operators, and we'll help with the towers and the public relations and all of the bonus points and all that stuff.
I guess part of it was, I started on the eastern shore of Maryland before I got involved with them in the PVRC, which is the Potomac Valley Radio Club, as being a contester. I do more of the UHF, VHF. I do DC to light 160 to 10 gig, okay? But I'm mostly concentrated on the VHF. So I got involved with them later on and kind of added to the group, and then they moved from there to the local school area here, which is more convenient for most of the people because you had to drive across the Bay Bridge on the other side and get eaten alive by all those mosquitoes, see? So we come back on this side, and that's when the 2 clubs really came together here in the last several years. And now talking about how all this came about is everybody here, when we do this, like for instance, we say we start in January, right? Already last couple weeks ago, I do the generators now in reference to all this, for all the power amongst everything. I've already fired up my generators, replaced batteries, and make sure they work. All the people that do these, that store this stuff over the years, maintain this equipment. So when we come to field day, it's been checked prior to arriving at field day. It's expected to come up and work when we get there, not to be put together and find out, oh, I didn't have a screw, I need this cable, I don't have this adapter. Plus we bring a lot of other stuff. But the key thing here, which really amazes me over the years, is like we have this huge field at the school, And it's like Friday morning, there's nothing there. And by noon Saturday, there's 15 rocket launches, as they call them, these AB-577, crank up towers, tents, radios, and cables, and everybody just comes and does their individual part. One guy does all the computers, all the wiring, the interfaces, the interneting up, make sure all the programs work, that all the, we're all going to use the same program again each year. The other guy lays out he's there over there ahead of time, laying out all the antennas, marking them, putting out the stakes for where all the antennas go. That's what he does. He likes to do that, Roll is contacting people, getting things together. I do the VHF stuff, and I get my own little crew together that comes out, and we put the stuff up. And as for the individual radios and stuff, a lot of the equipment belongs to these individuals that set up. I mean, Frank, W3AO has all the coax, 2 miles of cable.
Literally 2 miles.
2 miles of cable, and he keeps, and then brings and puts things together. Plus the antennas are all custom-built antennas. And the other thing for us, since we're on the East Coast, we face all the antennas west. There's no rotors involved. The only rotors are on mine are in the satellite guys. So we face them all west. And the same with the dipoles and stuff that work across the United States. We hardly ever turn an antenna. We did one year and it caused a problem. So you never do that again.
We can Armstrong rotate these towers. The way they're set up, the guys are fixed on rings. You can actually, you put a little lever arm thing in there and you can rotate them. We generally don't do that. I mean, at night I have actually recently, when 20 meters closes, I turn it to Europe and try to work some Europeans because there's nobody in the United States to work. But it's not really worth the trouble, and it can cause more problems than it helps, really.
Yeah, it does.
But you have a different problem. You don't have that luxury of being able to just point them in one direction and go. We have a lot of unique stuff that's only used for field day. Those towers are never used for anything but field day. Those generators are not used for anything but field day. The antennas, the beams that we have, we'll be glad to talk about what they are not used for anything but field day. The cable is shared, but it's torn down from W3LPL's receiving arrays that he has out in the field. So he has 2 miles of coax that he brings, which we have to unroll and then roll it again. So the computers were donated to us by a local school that one of our guys was the computer guy for. And so he got those computers, and we're running the same software that we ran 10 years ago. It's not the latest, but it works, and we know that nothing's changed. And as long as the rules don't change to the point we can't use it, we just use the same thing. He's got the networking equipment. He checks out all the computers. Almost every year he replaces something that's broken, a disk drive that doesn't come up. One of these days we're going to have to get a new donation. You talked about the location. That is not a trivial matter for us because we want to have, if you ask us what do we operate, we want to operate all bands all the time, all modes, all bands. That means 80-40, 160, 80-40, 20-15, 10, and all three modes of digital, voice, and CW. So we're on all of those bands. In fact, we have 4 stations on 20 meters. We have a GOTA station on 20 meters, phone CW and digital. During the day, all 4 of those are working. So we have to be able to make those all work together, which is the question we get most often. How do you make them all work together? Well, the first thing we need is we need a lot of room. So we have a space between 2 schools that's over 1,000 feet long. The ARRL rules are 1,000-foot circle. So people say, why don't you just go to a football field? Well, a football field's nowhere near big enough. That's only 300 feet. We need 3 football fields, right? So we have this huge holding expanse of straight open land at a fairly high level. We have had 2 or 3 places over the years, but we've had this one for 7 or 8 years now. Maybe more.
Very well, yeah.
And we've got a good relationship with the school board to use that place. So we used to put all the antennas in one long line facing along the north-south path so that all the antennas could be west. Now we put them in 2 lines because it allows us to space the antennas on the same band further apart, which was the secret to getting them to work. So they're end-to-end, that is tip-to-tip, right? Not close together, but end to end, so they get the minimum capture area between the antennas and the dipoles from between the towers.
Between each one of them.
And then having all of the 20-meter ones in one row, all of the 40-meter ones in the same row, all of the 15 ones in the same row, all of the 10s. That and the 80-meter dipoles are all on the same line, and the 160-meter dipoles are all in the same row. So we have room for 260-meter dipoles end to end, which is not too many people have that. So that's part of the secret, and N3KTV's part of this is to lay out W3AO. And when we started out, we had interference between the various modes on the same band, but we don't anymore. We can get very close to each other without any problems. We run 100 watts. We don't run high power. That would never work, I don't think, if we tried. We have filters, transmit filters on all of the transmitters. They just kind of keep the front end overloaded down. The harmonics, if you analyze it, most of the harmonics don't fall on top of each other. They fall out of the bands from the lower bands to the higher ones generally. So it isn't a matter of keeping the harmonics out, it's a matter of keeping the front end overloaded from being a problem. And we all have good radios, they're all contesters, so lots of K3s out there.
High-end stuff.
Yeah, a lot of high-end stuff, FT5000s, K3s, and a few old FT1000 MPs and things too. So, and then we have CQ machines on all the phone stations, all the CW stations, so we don't have to get horse.
Voice keyers and CW keyers. Then I do the VHF and UHF, which is kind of depending on band conditions again. They come and look at our tent, what's going on? Well, the bands are closed. And I have to laugh, the last several years, I'll be setting up in the morning, I'll get everything up and running, and the band 6 is wide open, 2 is wide open, and it gets 11 o'clock, 12 o'clock, 1, 2 o'clock, gone.
Yeah, that's right.
The band is closed up on it, so we're sitting over there with the voice keyers and the CW keyers running. But when it opens up, boy, it is just, you got to have a top-notch operator, which we do. We have several guys on that end that operate. N1SZ, he goes up north and everything up here. So Jim, he's a good operator for it. I try and get all these guys to come each year. Are going to operate this year, play with me again? Get in there and run. And I have some good CW operators in it. But I guess we should pause and ask for questions. Because we're just kind of babbling on here to go along with it.
Okay, well, Joe's got a question over here.
How are they raising money for all this?
Oh yeah, how do you raise money for all that?
We don't have very much of a budget. We take a collection at each field day. We have a place where people can put money in. My wife does all of the cooking with a team. She used to do it all personally. Now she has a team of 3 of them, I think, or 3 or 4 of them, that prepare all the food. So we have a Friday meal after we put the antennas up, and we have a Saturday right before the contest starts, because we work in Saturday morning, right before the contest starts on Saturday, and then Saturday evening we have a meal, we have breakfast on Sunday, and we have a cookout at the end. And she organizes all that. Most of the money we get goes for that. We have to rent a tent. We get a pretty good deal on our tent. It's a 20 by 40 tent. It costs us about $500. And we have fuel to put in the generator.
Yeah.
The towers all belong to individuals, so we don't pay for that. The generators are the towers, the antennas, the cable, the radios. There's no expense for any of that. So it's really the budget. My wife Audrey printed out the budget. I don't have it in front of me, but it's not that much money. It's a couple $1,000 for X, including all the food for all these people for the weekend.
Again, that's a lot of people, a lot of food. Other questions? Everybody's just spellbound here. Don, you weren't raising your hand, were you? Okay, she's just wandering here, so.
Well, I can make a comment that when we were 52A, we were actually 54 stations on that we were capable. Because you have to have a go-to station that doesn't count. We don't count one of those. So you commented about 2. You can only have one go-to station at a time. And the other thing is that you have a free. Means you don't get any bonus points for it, but it doesn't count against your category VHF station. So it's real important if you want to score max points that you have a good go-to station on the air, and that you get all the bonus points for the go-to station, which is difficult to do. You have to, if you read the rules, you know, it's got that deal, 20 QSOs gives you a 20-point bonus. If an individual makes 20 QSOs, and they can make up to 100. Well, you either have too few people to do that, or you have too many. We usually have too many. We have so many people that during the peak hours want to get on that, and they're so slow because they're not at all used to doing this.
I saw it in the video where Rich is there telling you what it means, and the SWL and the QSL and whatever that means there. And the other thing for extra bonus points is we do everything. We got the satellite guys, which bring all their own stuff and check all of it out their own tent, and they do their thing over there. And then, of course, we have the local representative that stop by for extra bonus points for the PR. We had the the solar out there. We get the solar. We try and every point we can get. For something we drag it in, PR, publicity, this kind of stuff. So you got to go after all of that too.
Right.
So,
So we're wrestling with how to get the safety bonus this year, because they want us to have whatever the CP.
Yeah, well, you meet that. And there were some rules that came out, and I got a copy read through them. I said, well, I already meet all these rules because I do all the electric and the generators. I got the fire extinguishers, the grounds, and everything. We're pretty well taken care of on that, and it's.
And we have a safety officer. We always have
We
one.
always have that in it.
So the only question is, do we have to really rent one of those
Resuscitation things,
one of those shock machines? They cost a fortune. They cost like $800 to rent, so we're not going to do that. So I don't know whether we really need one, or in fact, it doesn't say you need one. It just says you need somebody trained. We do have somebody trained.
We got a lot of paramedics.
So
There you go. You know how to
the
run
rest
the
will get the
generator.
points.
I got Jack in the back there has a question.
Right. You said that you have one, I believe, 20 by 40 tent. You get everybody in the one tent, and if you do, what do you use? Noise canceling headphones?
Well, it's all of the operations in 2 tents.
3 satellite boys are
All satellites have them.
Satellite boys are in their tent. We have a food tent. Okay, we have the main operating VHF or the HF tent. Then you have a separate VHF, UHF tent. Okay.
So there's a little bit of a problem in the VHF tent because they have several stations going at once.
Yes.
2 usually, I guess, right?
Well, depending
2
on
and 6 if it's open.
2 and 6 if it's open. 432. I mean, the one year I had, we got two stations on 6, two stations on 2 meters, 2 stations on 432, 2 stations on 220, 2 stations on 900. It just went up the line. We got the 1296. We had one year, 10 gig. I mean, that was just local here. But it gets if you look through some of the video there, if you have it put up on the wall there, the pictures, you can see the tents and the operations and everybody that's in there and all the radios and stuff that are in it. So
We only have to rent 1 tent. All the rest belong to people.
Okay.
So we rent that big 20 by 40 tent, and all the HF operation is in there, including all the bands, all the modes, and the go-to station are all together. We did have them separate. We found it's a lot more fun to have them all together.
Right next, elbow to elbow.
Elbow to elbow. You see in the movie, right?
Yeah.
And I have noise canceling headphones on.
Yeah, I tried those. Don't work very well sometimes. Joe had another question.
Yeah.
You would have gotten one from.
Are there operators doing their own logging, or do they have loggers besides their operators? Beside their
Do you
operators?
have people logging, like people that do the logging, or everybody do their own logging?
Everybody does it right.
Okay, so they all have their computer and they're logging.
In that
So the
case,
only way you can really do this efficiently is to use a computer logging program. We use an ancient program called CT. If any of you do contesting, it's obsolete. It's not supported anymore, but we haven't changed anything for 10 years with it. So we just keep using it because everybody knows it. And that allows you to automatically send the CW signal by hitting a key, so you don't have to enter it manually. So it's much more efficient, very much more efficient for one operator typing into the keyboard to make the entries themselves. Now that's because we're experienced contesters. If we had less experienced people, it would be very helpful to have somebody enter the data and somebody, in the go-to station, we usually help them out by entering the data.
One of the things I found, on the VHF side of it, it doesn't happen sometimes. Well, if it's a big band opening, then there's, you're running just like the HF guys are. But on like 432, the higher frequency band there, I can put a new person there and let them run that because there's not a whole lot of activity there. Right. It's a good way to break somebody new in on one of those bands that isn't heavily, because they can push the voice tier and learn how to log and do things in it. And the other thing that we do is we pass back and forth. The guy's on 6, if it's a little slow, you got 2 meters, you got 432, yeah, you send them down to the next guy and pass them back and forth. And that's where you build your extra points. And the VHF, the UHF is a good place to start to bring somebody new in so they're not overwhelmed by everything that's going on.
I should comment about the VHF station too. Maurice hinted at it. You have to be there all the time, yes. And the band's usually not open. So it can be frustrating for a while, and then it can be exciting as heck for a time. So we were talking today about this when we were looking at the video, because the ARVN video showed me operating 6, which I never do. It was an accident. Yeah. I was taking a break. I walked over to see how the guys were doing on 6 meters, and they were eating dinner too. We were all eating dinner. So I sat down, and the fan was wide open, and all of a sudden I'm working.
I had a pile up. So question with regards to that, I think we had another question. Let's get your question.
We've had some problems finding CW operators. We used to train them when they were younger. The problem that we have now with the no code is that people just don't get into it anymore, and there's not a lot of interest there. And I was just wondering where you find all these operators.
Well, the Potomac Valley Radio Club is a contest. And I think you'll find that the interest in contest among contesters in CW is extremely high. So we have many people, actually there's more competition for the CW slots than the phone slots. People want to operate CW. So we find them, I teach classes in all of the different entry levels, extra tech in general. And I offer Morse code, and I find that probably a third of the class very interested in it, even though there's no requirement. They take an extra half hour each night just to learn code. So it's not that
by no means. Yeah. On the VHF side of it, when you get up in the advanced VHF contest, you can hear, CW gets through and everything else does. It's on the higher bands, most of the contacts are CW. So the operators on the VHF side, the UHF side, do both CW and sideband, at the same time. Because you're sort of used to doing that when you go up and you go on the higher frequencies. You can't get through on sideband. Charlie Whiskey, okay, where you go? On that end of it. So it's, I guess, again, we're all contesters at heart. What the main thing is.
And our problem is, last year we had 2 operators, and one was 70 and the other was 73. And I'm just concerned that as the years go on, we're not going to be able to operate on CW. We are running classes now and have for the last year, and we'll continue to do that. But our club is nowhere near as large as yours probably is. I think we have 50 members. Does that sound right? Somewhere in that area?
All right.
And we just see that as a problem. Maybe I'm wrong, and maybe we'll get lucky.
My suggestion would be to go find out who the contestants are in your area. Go find out, look in the QSC and CQ and the online listings where you can, actually you can't do it anymore. It used to be able to see all the scores. If you go online though, you can see all the scores in most of the contests. Find out the guys who enter CW contests and go recruit them. Get them to come out with you. And they'll, if you can find them, they'll come because they love doing CW. So I think your source of them is finding contesters around your area, and I'm sure there probably are half a dozen of them that within 100 miles that might come.
Yeah.
How big is their club?
How big is your club?
Well, we asked that before. The Potomac Valley Radio Club, first of all, it's formed to promote contesting, and it's in what's called the large club category for club competition. So we compete with other clubs where we add up all the scores, all the members in the club, and the club that gets the most points wins. And then they have different geographical areas and different numbers of members. Our geographical area extends from North Carolina up to Pennsylvania,
Virginia,
Delaware, Virginia, Maryland. It's huge, and West Virginia. So it's huge. And Of course, all those people don't come.
No.
We have a meeting every year at W3LPL's house, and I guess a couple hundred people.
Yes, show up for that, and vote people in and do the preliminaries and talk about field day.
And Cara is more your size,
Yes.
50, 75 active members.
And they have an actual meeting place where they come to and do their meeting, or we don't really have a meeting place for Potomac Valley Radio Club. There are various, throughout the year, they go to restaurants and stuff and get together and have a meeting here, different sections. We'll go Virginia side one time, the north side the next time, just so that people can come to those particular areas and have a round table like we're having now, all sit down and talk about the contest, that kind of stuff, have a meal, and then off you go again. Where the Cara Club is located in Columbia, Maryland, and they have a group, a place where they actually meet.
More like the Northern California DX Association kind of thing
Exactly.
too. Very much the same. I know that Zero has a DX association too in the zero call area. So there's a bunch of them, but they're almost all those people I know are all contesters. And they're all big in CW, they love CW.
But if you enter 3A, I guess you entered 3A last year, I looked it up, I think you did. If you enter 3A, if you had 2 CW operators, you could do what you have to do.
Mm-hmm.
Right, get more points for that, for sure. Was there another question, Joe?
Stan, what are they doing for publicity? That would
What do you do
help me
for
out.
publicity to promote your, the field day?
Well, there's two levels of publicity. There's the publicity amongst amateur radio people, and that's coming naturally, is because words gets out on the internet, and so we get a lot of publicity amongst ham, so people know this call sign.
Mm-hmm.
But as far as publicity for points, I write a press release every year, and I send it out to a half a dozen newspapers, and I would say once every 3 or 4 years, they actually send a team out to our facility and actually take photographs and put us an article in the newspaper or on TV. So the interesting thing is, whether for good or bad, you get the points for publicity if you just make an effort, make a substantial effort to do it. They realize you can't force the media to come to your place. So I send it out every year, and we try to keep the list current, and we have occasionally, when we can find somebody who has a connection with a local radio station or TV station, we have people come out, but we can't guarantee it.
County executive or the delegate comes out, Gates, she comes out, you're one of our representatives.
Yeah.
Extra bonus points for that,
And we get the local
fire department.
people come, and civil defense.
Civil defense, they bring their big van out, couple, and set up, and then we do a little tour there, and it's extra bonus point for us, and we go look inside for a couple minutes, oh yeah, it's really nice.
Out. I had a question about the UHF, VHF. Now, I mean, all the HF stuff, you've got beam antennas up there, you've got dipoles between the towers. And then, are you running any vertical then for VHF, UHF, or is that, where you get way up high, you're running parabolic dishes, or what do you, and are they all pointed west as well?
No. If you look at the other video there, it's kind of unique. I have a twin rotor system that I built. If you notice on the one video there, there's two rotors on the VHF. Well, the VHF is separate, okay, the tent and everything else. And I like my comfort, like I have 3 ton of air conditioning in my tent so I can be comfortable. But getting back to your question, everything is horizontal, but I do have a vertical antenna I put up. It's a tri-band vertical, so I can switch it between 220 or 2 meters. But most of the time, I just leave it on 220 over there for the local 220 stuff. But everything else is on the flat side for it. And the 2 rotors turn independent of each other, because usually 6 guys work in one direction and 2 meters work in the other direction with it. And on the top one has the 220 to 432 and 2 meters, and the 6 is independent of that. I have another smaller vertical or mast I put up that has a 6 meter halo on it also, and I can put another antenna on that. My whole system really is being, in the military and doing all this stuff. Actually, those, what they call the rocket launchers, AB-577s, come back to haunt me. I put those up in the military for part of an Angry 50 system that we used to put up for communications point to point with it. And I always wondered back then, how can I steal one of these? This is a great antenna. How can I get this home on my whole package, you know? And then they came back here locally, and hey, I pride myself as being the first person to put one of these up. When Toby Hanna started dumping these things, I knew what they were, and I put them up, and then everybody
Yeah,
wanted
they
them.
all want one.
Stan,
It used to be you could
ask
get
him
it for
what
like
the name of that
$200,
was.
$200.
probably 15.
What?
Team.
You stole them for $200.
Yeah, but that was
Oh,
back
yeah.
in the beginning when
In the
nobody knew what they
beginning,
were.
no one knew what they were.
Unbelievable. Yeah, you
It's
can't
on
touch
us.
a Runner 800 right now. They're hard to find if you can find them at all.
Stan, what do they call those antennas?
What do they call the mast antenna? I know they're military, but you call them like skyrockets or what?
Rocket launchers.
That is what we call it. The official name for it is the AB 577, and they're crank-up masts. They're 5-foot tubes that go in this holder in the bottom, and you put one in and you crank it up and you clamp it, up to the top of the elevator and bring it down. Put the next tube in and crank to that, and they have guy rings that go on certain heights. They'll go up to 75 feet. They have a 75-foot kit. But originally what they were designed for, they had microwave forms on them that went up on top, and then you could turn those, the elevation and the azimuth. They used to call it profile the shot, and when we're putting them in, you go to your mountaintop and do your map, and then you hit 10 degrees down and go to the other guy, and then you could turn the whole antenna back and forth. The original ones were what they call the Track 24 system with the fly swatters. You probably see them during Vietnam. You see the fly swatters up there. They went up with a block and tackle type thing. That was our Track 24 system. And then these replaced them until they went from 24 to 48 channel. But the biggest improvement was the way that tower went up. Boy, that was nice.
Oh, yeah, I've seen them in operation, and they are really, really neat. Yeah. I wouldn't mind having one of those too. Last year we actually had a TV truck that had a tower that went up on it too. I think went up about 40 feet or something like that. Lloyd, do you remember how?
Yeah, something like that.
Yeah, we should have bought that truck. I think it's a great,
The comment about antennas, first of all, we have this luxury of being on the East Coast, so we don't have to rotate them, which is a tremendous help. But a lot of people, I think, make a mistake when they start plotting antennas for field day. There are guys who say, gee, I've always wanted to have a 4-element beam on 40 meters. We could put one up in the trees. Well, you don't want to do that. All you can do with a high-gain antenna is focus the energy in a narrow beam. Well, you don't want to focus the antenna in a narrow beam. You want to actually have a fairly broad beam. So you don't want omnidirectional because you don't want the problems off the ends. But you do want a pretty broad pattern so you pick up most of the United States in one direction. You guys could set up in two directions, right? Point east and point west and still be end to end. If you start pointing south and north, you're going to have trouble because you'll be pointing into each other's antenna. Not if you're 3A. If you're 3A, you can get them far apart. You can rotate them all. But we have, even with 1,000 feet, with 420-meter beams, they're still 250 feet apart, which is not that far.
So when you're starting field day, kind of tricks of the trade maybe at the end here, the tricks of the trade, you have so many operators, so you're learning A27 or 27A. Do you all pick out a portion of the band and just when the clock starts, the very first second or minute, you're locked into a frequency and you just stay there. You stay there or you move around?
You pretty much. If there's a really good interview at that second reel, I advise everybody to go online and look for the last big field day and look for, there's part 1 and part 2. The ARVN guys have released that to the public for free now. It used to be you had to buy that disc, and then after the sales started to roll off, they just put it on YouTube. So you can get that, and there's some interviews in there asking that very question, and a lot of the other questions you're asking. But the answer to that is, we have beams at the right height, 50 feet, and dipoles at the right height. You don't want them tall. You want a fairly high angle, because we're not trying to work Vietnam. We're just trying to work
across the United States.
500,000 miles, mostly contacts. And so we have a relatively strong signal. So we find a frequency and pretty much stay on it as long as we can. However, and then we'll move and call on another frequency if it starts to get tough. We rarely search and bounce, but we do have to search and bounce sometimes because there are all the other stations doing the same thing we are, and we'll never work them. if we don't go look for it, because they aren't going to go look for us. So 20 meters in the evening, after midnight when it's really, I'm on 20 meter CW, I'm on 24 hours. Even at the middle of the night, the rates are down to 20 an hour, so I'm still on there because we can afford to be on bands that are not open. Just to get what few contacts we can get. And so I'll start tuning the band in those cases because it's so slow that I can afford to do that. But when the peak rates, I mean, when the contest starts, our combined stations are making about 850 contacts an hour between all the stations.
Wow. Any other questions? Yes. Okay, I think we're about ready on time here. We've gone a little longer than we anticipated for the meeting, so we want to keep moving on here. But Maurice and Rolf, thank you so much for being a part of our club meeting tonight, and we appreciate it.